Dear viewers, I am a certified supply chain professional CSCP, project management professional PMP, and Agile certified practitioner ACP. With extensive experience in the industry and a strong background in managing supply chain related projects, I have had the privilege of teaching students globally. My expertise lies in guiding dedicated students through my instructional videos, helping them successfully pass their certification exams. Before I begin, I would request all my viewers to check the description box of this video. Thank you. Let's start with test number 13, question number 1. During every retrospective meeting, the project team discusses the multiple issues in the process, such as bottlenecks for the verification team towards the end of every iteration. The servant leader notes down these retrospective items in the Google spreadsheet, which is available for everyone in the project team. The retrospective is attended by the product owner, the project team, and the servant leader, who facilitates the retrospective meeting. Despite all the above, this project team is not showing much improvement in the overall teamwork processes. What can the team do to overcome this challenge and make progress in the overall teamwork processes? A. Exclude the product owner from the retrospective meeting. There can be some team members who might be hesitant to speak up during the retrospective in the presence of the product owner. B. Capture no more than 3 items to improve the teamwork process in each retrospective meeting. C. Instead of a servant leader, let anyone in the project team facilitate the retrospective meeting. D. Stop using Google spreadsheet to store these retrospective items. Instead, use software tools such as Jira or other similar tools. Here, option B is correct. If you read the scenario, it is quite clear that this project team is trying to capture too many things during the retro meeting. And perhaps due to this large workload, they are not able to work on them in focused manner. The product owner is an important stakeholder and should be invited to the retrospective meeting. The essence of a retrospective meeting is to capture the learnings from the past iteration and make improvements. Agile literature is not very prescriptive, nor does it recommend using Google spreadsheets or any specific software, so that point is not very relevant here. Also, anyone including the servant leader can facilitate the retro meeting, and that is not really an issue here. So, the best way for this team to show some improvement is only to decide on 2 or 3 retrospective work items for each retro in a focused manner and try to complete those work items in the upcoming iterations to show progress. Question number 2. You work as a freelance project manager and one of the steel manufacturing organizations in the Middle East has asked your view on their readiness to adapt Agile to deliver their projects. This organization has used traditional management approaches for more than a decade but wanted to explore an opportunity to see if their teams can adopt Agile. Which of the following are desirable characteristics that you should find in the organization to judge their readiness to adopt Agile? Select 2 options from below. A. Focus on short-term budgeting. B. Work is decomposed into departmental silos. C. Executive management's willingness to change. D. Employees are specialized contributors with limited tools to diversify their skills. Here, option A and C are correct. Before transitioning to Agile, it is recommended that an organization should understand the relative compatibility of Agile methods with their current approaches. Executive management's willingness to change and focus on short-term budgeting are desirable characteristics. Work is decomposed into departmental silos and employees are specialized contributors with limited tools to diversify their skills, which are not ideal for Agile adoption. Question number 3. The Agile adoption has been a priority for Andy, who is the Agile project manager at Red Valley Inc., a US-based company who works on solar panel manufacturing. Hence, leadership at Red Valley Inc. decided to use the Scrum for their projects. The Scrum team in this organization wanted to improve its process and practices to make it more effective for the next iteration. What event should be conducted to help the team reflect on how to become more effective? A. Scrum retrospective. B. Scrum backlog refinement. C. Scrum sprint planning. D. Scrum review. Here, option A is correct. In Scrum retrospective event meetings, teams reflect on how to become more effective by learning from previous iterations, identifying what went well and what did not go well. By the end of the sprint retrospective meeting, the Scrum team should have identified areas of improvement that it will implement in the next sprint. Implementing these improvements in the next sprint is the adaptation resulting from the Scrum team's self inspection. While improvements may be implemented at any time, the sprint retrospective provide a formal opportunity to specifically focus on inspection and adaptation. Question number 4. James and his team working on a project of migrating the on-premises machines into the AWS cloud. The tech lead from the team, Kevin, has informed James that the migration activity is getting over soon. So, James is now thinking of releasing the resources such as tools, software, and licenses used by the project. What kind of resources and when should James release these resources? A. James should release the human resources during closing phase of the project and physical resources only after the project closure. B. James should release the right quantity of resources at the right time in such a way that the project won't get impacted or delayed. C. James should release both physical and human resources only after the project closure. D. James should release the physical resources during closing phase of the project and human resources only after the project closure. Here option B is correct. When it comes to controlling or releasing project resources, both physical and human resources, the PMBOK recommends releasing the right quantity of resources at the right time in such a way that the project won't be impacted or delayed. Also, please note that you must release the resources first to fully complete the project closure. Question number 5. Obama is a project manager who will be driving the new chair manufacturing project for his company. He reviewed the project charter of the project and found that 3 people are already identified who will work on the project, whose planning itself has not yet started. Is it okay to have identified resources before project planning? A. It is okay when a physical or team resource for a project is identified in advance, it is considered pre-assigned. B. All the resources, both physical and human, are identified during the planning phase via plan resource management. It is not okay. C. Only the physical resource such as equipment or materials for a project are identified in advance and team resource must be identified during planning phase via plan resource management. D. None of these. Here option A is correct. Pre-assignment of project team members or physical resources can occur for many reasons. Sometimes specific individuals are identified in an agreement with a customer or partner. This is most likely when someone possesses rare or highly demanded skills or knowledge and the customer or partner is aware of these skills beforehand, perhaps due to prior collaboration. In such a scenario, it is acceptable to have a project charter for the project with 3 people already identified to work on it, even though the planning phase has not yet begun. When a physical or team resource for a project is identified in advance, it is considered pre-assigned. Question number 6. During the planning phase, the project team knew that the vendor team with whom they are working might shut down. The project manager has recorded this in an appropriate project artifact. This week, that vendor team has informed the project manager formally that they are shutting down all their offices with immediate effect. This is an example of which of the following: A. Crashing, B. Fail fast, C. Risk becoming an issue, D. Issue becoming a risk. Here option C is correct. As a project manager, there are several terms and concepts you should be familiar with. For instance, you should be aware that risk and issue are not the same. The key difference is that an issue has already occurred, whereas a risk is a potential problem that may or may not occur and it can impact the project positively or negatively. In the scenario mentioned above, the project team was aware that the vendor team might shut down. So it's an example of risk that the project manager identified and recorded in an appropriate project artifact, most likely a risk register. Later, this risk turned into an issue because the vendor team informed us that they are indeed shutting down. This is an example of risk becoming an issue. Question number 7. There is an escalation happening from the client in one of the projects in your company and the client is clearly not happy with this project team. Client said that this team misunderstood at least 5 or more requirements. You are asked to find the root cause behind this escalation. You found that this team consists of 20 people, but they are not co-located and most of them are working from home due to COVID-19 pandemic. Also, their sprint length is 3 weeks long. They do Scrum stand up, which usually ends up in about 10 minutes. When you spoke with them, they said that they interact with clients' business representative once in 9 weeks. Based on above, what might be the most likely reason for this failure of the team? A. As per Agile or Scrum, the daily standard should be 15 minutes and this team is finishing it in 10 minutes, and this is the most likely reason for this failure of the team. B. As per Agile or Scrum, team must be co-located and this team is not, and this is the most likely reason for this failure of the team. C. As per Agile or Scrum, business people and development team must work together daily throughout the project and it is not happening, and this is the most likely reason for this failure of the team. D. As per Agile or Scrum, team should be small. 20 people is not small team, and this is the most likely reason for this failure of the team. Here option C is correct. The above scenario clearly indicates that the team has misunderstood the project requirements. This may be because the development team only meets with the client's business representative once every 9 weeks, and this extended gap might have prevented the development team from having the opportunity to clarify specific requirements with the client's business representative. Question number 8. The project to set up an assembly line for shoemaking was successfully completed 2 months ago. The stakeholders and customers both were happy with the project delivery. However, there have been many complaints coming from the people who are operating the assembly line during the operations in the past few weeks. The people who are operating the assembly line have prior experience of working on similar projects in the past, and even they are saying that they don't understand the overall assembly line process for this project and who needs to do what. What can be the most likely reason for this? A. Project team is not responsible for what happens after the project is completed. This situation is not relevant to project, but it is related to operations and hence it is one's fault, and this should be treated business as usual. B. The project manager did not handle the project risks effectively, resulting in poor operational performance. C. The project manager and the project team did not handle the project quality effectively, resulting in poor operational performance. D. There was a lack of knowledge transfer from the project team to the operations team, due to which the operating team was unable to effectively perform the operational work. Here option D is correct. The PMI-PMP exam focuses on project management and various aspects of managing projects. However, there are few areas such as operating a project after its completion that you as a project manager should be aware of. In the above scenario, even an experienced operating team seems to be having trouble operating a project. Besides this, stakeholders were happy at the end of the project, which also hints that the project manager and the team must have handled both risks and quality well. This is a good hint that there must have been a lack of knowledge transfer from the project team to the operations team, which is why the operating team is unable to effectively perform the operational work. Question number 9. You and your team are working in a transport domain where the product is creating windows using aluminum for four-wheelers. These four-wheelers vehicles are used for both public and private transport. You are working as a project manager on the project, and you and the project sponsor need to come up with a clear understanding of what is meant by success for this project. Which of the following will define the success for the project? Select two options. A. The project should deliver at least 5 times or more than the benefit to cost ratio. B. The project should meet the scope, schedule and the budget objectives. C. The project should deliver above target in triple constraint, scope, schedule and cost. D. The project should deliver the business value and the outcomes as expected by the project stakeholders. Here option B and D are correct. While the definition of success for each project will surely differ, there are some common objectives that a project should meet to be called successful. As a project manager, you should work closely with the project sponsor, project management, and leadership to develop your own definition of success for this project. In general, a project is considered a success if it meets the scope, schedule, and budget objectives and delivers the expected business value and outcomes as anticipated by the project stakeholders. The other two options mentioned in the scenario can also serve as definitions of success for the project teams, depending on the project context. However, they are not always universally applicable to every project. Question number 10. The team who worked on a mobile app to book an auto is showing a demo to their customers. There are 5 customers who, after seeing every feature in the app, are voting to decide if the feature is meeting the requirement. And if 3 out of 5 agree that the feature is meeting the requirement, that feature is marked as complete. Which of the below options best describe what is happening in the above scenario? A. This is scope validation. The team is using decision-making technique of consensus to reach the conclusion. B. This is scope validation. The team is using decision-making technique of voting to reach the conclusion. C. This is scope creep. The team is using decision-making technique of dot voting to reach the conclusion. D. This is scope validation. The team is using decision-making technique of dot voting to reach the conclusion. Here, option B is correct. You may not have seen this being used in your organization, but there are few companies that may use techniques as described in the above scenario to validate scope. The idea is simple. To mark a deliverable as complete, each member votes and deliverables are approved based on the majority votes.